Breaking, Venezuelan fighters close on a U.S. B-1B bomber near Venezuela. Tommen, miscalculation.
9:40 a.m. Eastern Time, Northern Caribbean airspace. Under clear daylight skies, a U.S. B-1B Lancer moves south at over 550 miles per hour. Altitude steady, flight path clean, no deviation, no aggressive posture. Below, the Caribbean looks calm. Above it, the situation changes fast. Two fast-moving radar contacts surge out from the Venezuelan coast. They close aggressively, no radio contact, no warning turns. The gap collapses from over 40 miles to 30 in moments. This is not a routine intercept. This is a challenge. Inside the bomber, warning tones activate. Sensors confirm active tracking. The crew remains composed. No sharp turns. No speed spike. Any sudden movement here would only escalate the encounter. Instead of widening separation, the interceptors angle directly toward the patrol route. Their choice alters the balance immediately. What appears to be a simple chase is now a live confrontation, and it is already uneven. The Venezuelan pilots believe they are pressuring a single aircraft operating near their airspace. They are wrong. They do not yet know how many systems are watching them, or how close the response already is. As the distance continues to shrink, the first peak of tension is reached. What just unfolded over the Caribbean is not random, and it is not about one bomber. This stretch of airspace sits above one of the most important sea lanes in the region. Oil tankers, cargo ships, and regional traffic move through this corridor every day. For the United States, keeping this area stable is not optional. It is a core security mission meant to prevent disruption before it starts. The B-1B Lancer flying here is not looking for a fight. These patrols are designed to be visible, lawful, and predictable. They signal presence without crossing borders. That balance is intentional. It reassures partners and reminds rivals that international airspace is not owned by any one country. For Venezuela, pushing fighters forward sends a different message. Close intercepts are used to test limits. They measure reaction time, discipline, and political tolerance. The question being asked is simple. How close is too close, and who blinks first? But once radar tracking becomes active, the situation changes. This is no longer politics. It becomes physical. A radar lock is not a warning. It is a statement of intent. Inside the bomber, the crew knows one wrong move can force decisions that cannot be taken back. In the intercepting jets, the pilots understand that pulling away too late can be more dangerous than continuing forward. This is why moments like this matter. Not because shots are fired, but because misreading the balance of power can turn routine presence into real confrontation. And if you think the United States should hold firm and not back down, press 1" the comments. If you believe Venezuela's pressure is the real test here, press 9 and make your choice known. And subscribe to stay with us as this confrontation continues to unfold. The first response does not come with weapons. It comes with confirmation. Inside the B-1B, the warning tone sharpens. The display shifts from passive tracking to active lock. That change tells the crew everything they need to know. This is no longer observation. A decision has been made on the other side. The bomber does not react suddenly. It does not turn, climb, or dive. Speed holds steady just above 550 miles per hour. Altitude remains unchanged. Any sharp move now would only raise the risk. Calm is not weakness. Calm is control. Far beyond what the intercepting pilots can see, other aircraft begin to reposition. There is no open radio chatter and no visible signal. Orders move quietly through secure systems. This part of the response always starts early, long before danger feels close. On radar screens hundreds of miles away, contact symbols change status. That shift means real pilots and real aircraft are now involved. Every next move carries weight. The Venezuelan jets keep closing. 30 miles, then 25. Their speed leaves no doubt. This is not an escort and not a warning pass. This is pressure meant to force a reaction. Inside one of the intercepting cockpits, a pilot checks his range again. The return looks strong and clear. He trusts his instruments. What he does not see is how clearly his own radar emissions are now exposing his position, angle, and intent to others watching silently from a distance. Inside the bomber, electronic systems adjust automatically. Signals are logged, angles are measured, everything is recorded in real time. No one raises their voice, no one rushes. For several long seconds, nothing changes. The bomber holds course. The interceptors hold lock. The silence grows heavy. This is the moment when control can still be lost with a single mistake. If you believe the intercept should stop here before it goes too far, press 1 inch the comments. If you think pushing closer is the real test of resolve, press 9 and subscribe now, because the next step will decide how this confrontation turns. The escalation does not explode. It tightens. Electronic interference begins to shape the airspace, quietly and deliberately. Nothing dramatic appears on the intercepting pilot's screens, just small inconsistencies. Ranges feel slightly off. Angles do not line up the way training says they should. In close air encounters, even minor errors can change everything. Above the bomber, aircraft the intercepting pilots still cannot see begin to widen their spacing. Each adjustment is slow and measured. No sharp turns, no aggressive dives. Control matters more than speed right now. Below, the Caribbean remains calm. From the outside, nothing looks wrong. Ships continue moving along their routes. The sky looks normal. But inside command rooms, the picture is different. Radar operators begin questioning their own displays. Returns, fade, reappear, then shift a few miles from where they were moments earlier. Settings are checked. Systems are recalibrated. The picture still refuses to settle. The Venezuelan jets continue pressing closer. Their pilots trust their instruments. They have flown these aircraft for years. They believe proximity creates leverage. They believe the bomber will be forced to react. What they do not realize is that every second they remain locked on target is feeding more data to the other side. Their own signals are now a trail that can be followed with growing precision. They are no longer applying pressure, they are exposing themselves. Inside the B-1B, the crew senses the change. The aircraft's systems compensate smoothly, filtering noise and predicting movement. No one speaks loudly. No one shows urgency. This calm is not accidental, it is practiced. Then comes a pause. For a brief stretch of time, there are no new alerts, no fresh tones, just the steady sound of airflow and engines. This is often the most dangerous moment, when one decision determines whether the encounter cools down or spins out of control. Right here, the outcome can still go either way. If you think Venezuela should break off now before the situation turns ugly, press 1 inch the comments. If you believe this kind of pressure is exactly the point of the intercept, press 9 and stay subscribed, because the next move will push this confrontation into a new phase. What the intercepting pilots still do not understand is that the air picture they are focused on is no longer the main event. While their attention stays locked on the bomber, another part of the response has already been moving into place. Far below the surface, in deep and quiet water, a United States submarine has been holding speed and depth for hours. Its crew has been watching the same timeline as the bomber crew, waiting for a moment that was planned long before the fighters ever took off. This intercept is not a surprise to them. It is a trigger. Inside the submarine, there is no rush and no raised voices. The order is short and clear. Preparations begin in a controlled and methodical way. This is not escalation driven by emotion. It is positioning meant to make one thing clear. This confrontation is layered, and airspace is only one piece of it. Above the water, the bomber makes a subtle adjustment. Not a retreat and not an advance, just enough movement to pull attention upward again. The intercepting pilots follow instinctively. They remain convinced that the bomber is still the center of the encounter. They are wrong. The real shift is happening out of sight. Data is flowing quietly. Confirmations move back and forth. No one on the surface hears a thing, but the balance is changing. Inside the bomber, the crew knows the picture is widening. Time is being measured carefully. Every second the intercept continues adds pressure, but it also adds clarity. The longer this goes on, the harder it becomes for the other side to pretend this is just a close encounter. This is the moment where pressure turns into leverage. If you believe the United States planned this response perfectly from the start, press 1 in the comments. If you think bringing another layer into play risks pushing the situation too far, press 9. And stay subscribed because the next phase will make this mistake impossible to ignore. The climax does not arrive with a warning. It arrives with motion. Sensors detect it first. Not radar from the sky, but signals rising from the sea. Brief flashes appear on screens. Low-altitude tracks form and stabilize. Cruise missiles break the surface and level out, flying fast and low toward the coast at high subsonic speed. Inside coastal command centers, confusion spreads quickly. Screens struggle to keep a clean picture. Some returns drop out, others jump position. Operators call out ranges that change between sentences. Phones ring. Orders overlap. No one is fully sure which threat should be handled first. Above it all, the B-1B begins to ease away from the center of the air picture. The move is smooth and controlled. There's no sharp turn and no sudden climb. Fuel looks good. Speed increases slightly. The bomber does not need to rush. The intercepting jets finally sense that something has shifted. Their instruments warn that the situation is no longer focused on one aircraft. The air no longer feels controlled. They adjust course, but the timing is already late. High overhead, aircraft that have remained unseen settle into clean positions. Geometry lines up. A targeting solution forms. It is clear. It is undeniable. A short radio message cuts through the silence. One sentence, calm and direct. There is no threat in the tone, only certainty. The intercepting pilots understand immediately. Their radar emissions have given them away. What began as pressure has turned into exposure. One jet breaks away hard, dumping speed and turning out. The other hesitates for a moment too long before following. No missile is fired in anger. No explosion lights the sky above the Caribbean. But the message lands with full force. Control has shifted, and it is felt. At the same time, the sea-launched missiles continue inland toward their assigned points. They fly low enough to avoid early detection and fast enough to leave little time to respond. The bomber is already outbound as the first impacts occur far beyond the horizon. This is the peak of the confrontation. Air, sea, and decision converge in a narrow window. If you believe this response was necessary to restore control, press 1 in the comments. If you believe it pushed the situation too close to the edge, press 9. And stay subscribed as we move into what comes next. When the noise fades, the air over the Caribbean grows quiet again. The B-1B is already well clear of the area, flying steadily over open water. Systems are calm. Fuel is balanced. The crew runs routine checks and logs the mission. For them, the most dangerous part is over, not because shots were fired, but because restraint held under pressure. The aircraft settles back into a familiar rhythm where every sound and reading makes sense again. The aircraft that moved unseen earlier remain on station only long enough to confirm what is already clear. The intercept has ended. Control has been restored without air-to-air combat. No wreckage falls into the sea. No emergency calls follow. From a distance, it looks like nothing happened at all. Along the Venezuelan coast, the effects appear more slowly. Selected facilities experience brief outages. Communications pause, then return. Crews on the ground work to understand what occurred and what was exposed. Screens are reviewed, logs are checked. No cities are struck. No large explosions dominate the skyline. This was not punishment. It was precision, applied carefully and then withdrawn. For Venezuela, the lesson is immediate and uncomfortable. An intercept meant to show resolve instead revealed radar coverage, reaction timing, and coordination gaps. In less than an hour, patterns that took years to build were quietly tested and mapped. What was intended as pressure created vulnerability, and that realization lingers after the aircraft are gone. For the United States, the message is just as clear. Presence does not require permission, and restraint does not mean weakness. This encounter shows that pressure can be answered without chaos, and that control can be enforced without open conflict. Discipline and planning shape the outcome more than speed or aggression. For the crews involved, the aftermath is personal. The bomber pilots replay the moment when warning tones sharpened and silence grew heavy. The intercepting pilots revisit the instant when confidence turned into exposure and the sky stopped feeling predictable. These moments stay with people long after missions end. This is how modern confrontations end now. Not with victory parades or burning aircraft, but with data, calculation, and quiet conclusions. Both sides walk away knowing more than before and trusting less than they did hours earlier. What follows will not be loud or immediate, but every side involved will remember how close control came to slipping away. What happened here was not the end of a story. It was a rehearsal,